Hi, you guys. Welcome and welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today I'm not really doing a tutorial, but I am showing you how to do the reverse single crochet and the twisted single crochet, and we'll talk about applications of each stitch, what each stitch offers, and we'll also do a comparison of the two stitches side by side. These are wonderful finishing stitches for shawls, scarves, blankets. They have multiple different applications for just giving you that nice finished edge. I have been doing tons of blankets over the years where I just add that reverse single crochet. In the last couple months, I have discovered the twisted single crochet, and the differences between these two stitches are actually very important, as they have different feels in what they offer for the final project. So for this, you will, obviously need to know how to make your piece. You will need to understand the basic way of making a single crochet, as both of these are based off the single crochet. For this kind of comparison contrast episode, I am using Premier Basics. This is Ballet, Crepe, and Taupe. And I am using my Clover Amour size I 5.5 millimeter hook. But obviously this can be done in any yarn, any hook, whatever your project is using and whatever your project calls for. So let's get started with the reverse single crochet. Okay, so first let's talk about reverse single crochet. So this has been my go-to, small border option for crochet blankets for a while now. So what you'll do when you reverse single crochet is you come to the right, well, in my case, to the right, I'm right-handed, and you will go into the stitch, yarn over, draw through your loop, draw through. So we're creating a twist over the top of our work here as we do that. And that puts a lot of tension on this outer border. So if you're going to hard block a piece, this is actually great because it's going to give you that extra bulk, and that extra tension is going to give you the dimensions kind of automatically of hard blocking your piece, because you're already creating space in the bulk of the stitch, and that wrapping motion to come to the back of your work adds just a little bit of bulk here. You can see where it's a little bit thicker than our base piece here. And I love this for bordering blankets or shawls or anything where you want rigidity but pliability in your piece. And also, I mean, it's just a very pretty way of finishing off your piece, but you do have to be aware that you are adding a lot of bulk in there. So that can also, create some issues if you weren't planning on blocking your piece, or, you want something that's going to maybe flow a little bit more with your piece overall. The reverse single crochet or crab stitch might not be the best call, but it's very simple. You just twist and reach back, grab it, yarn over, pull through, and you get very into the motion. It's a very easy motion to follow through with, but you can already see where we're getting heavy rippling, but not to say that these squares, wouldn't lay out easily to that dimension either. So again, if you're hard blocking your piece or going to pin it out and really steam it, or if it's a natural fiber, wet it and let it dry, really open. This is a wonderful option to create that, more durable border. And if you've got something that's a looser feeling stitch, this border can be great because it gives you rigidity on that outer edge without blocking all drape. So if you've got a super drapey project that you've made and you want it to hold its shape, but you don't want it to lose necessarily all drape, you want it to stay in shape, but still kind of have some movement. This is a really good option for that. It is rigid, so it's definitely not going to, move freely or anything. Oh, sorry, I'm started looking at my hands in real life and started writing up off the camera. But I mean, you can see, like, I'm losing some stretch here. So you will lose some of that stretch. So if you want to maintain the stretch of your piece, this is not going to be what you want ultimately. But if you want something that's going to help you hold shape better for longer, the reverse single crochet, obviously is a good option. So I am just working my way around the square here. It's, like I said, you just get into a nice little rhythm with it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. One more here. But I do use this on blankets a lot. I've used it in the past on cardigans a lot. I might still continue to use this on things like my acrylic cardigans, but I don't think I'm going to continue using it on natural fibers, especially ones that have a little bit more spring, just because I don't think it's necessary. I do think the twisted single crochet, if I want this look, would be better. Another thing that I really love about this stitch is it kind of reminds me of doing blanket stitch and quilting or hand sewing around a piece to just give it that finished edge. I mean, you can see, using the contrasting yarn here, it gives it a nice decorative effect. But you can see where I really have to now push this out to lay flat, because we have so much density now in that edge with this stitch that even above, there's a little bit of warping with the solid granny, but I really have to press that out. So this isn't something, once again, this isn't a, add it and go. You really need to block this just because you've added so much yarn and density there. I'm not quite sure of the mechanics for that extra little bit of yarn, but it is just a little bit extra yarn in there. So now we've come back around to the end. I want to do my chain one. And then I kind of find a way to slide this in. And then when I go to weave in my ends, I'll pull my working yarn end through. As I'm sewing it in, I'll pull it through the start to this tube here basically, that we've created with this single crochet. I'll go down this channel and it'll kind of tuck that little bit of a knob into the border there. But you can see just how much density we've added. And you can press it out like it's not too tight, but you can see I don't think it's very obvious with these. There's not enough there, but you can see where it's kind of pushing it out beyond the original. And that's what would happen when you block it. When you block it, it would stretch it out to those dimensions, but you need to relax your piece and your border with that reverse single crochet. So that is what it looks like when this one is complete. All right, so bordering the square with the twisted single crochet. So this one is a fairly new to me stitch, to be fair and completely honest. I had never done this stitch before. So what you're going to do, just like you're working a single crochet, insert your hook, draw up your loop, and then twist your hook and draw through. And these first couple stitches, because of the tail, are going to look a little loose, but drop your loop, rotate your hook, draw through. Rotate your hook. And you can see where we're already getting that twisted effect here. Insert, pull up loop, rotate your hook. Now with this one, you do get into a bit of you figure out how to rotate that hook in a very natural way to you. For me on camera, it's always going to be a little bit awkward because, as I've said before, I don't have an overhead rig. So the camera is 100% between me and my work. And I'm actually reading through the camera to do this. But I really like this stitch. So you get all the decorative effects of that reverse single crochet or crab stitch, but it doesn't add nearly as much bulk into your finished object. So it also doesn't add quite as much rigidity because it is still basically a single crochet. Rotate that hook. So you're not going to end up with nearly as much warping along the edge. Now, with this being the sample, I have a double crochet granny stitch square here. And we do have a little warping just because it's a solid granny. As I said in my solid granny tutorial for the one that I use, you know, it's normal to have a little bit of warping. Chain one made it too loose and now I can't draw through. Chain one at the corner. And I'm just doing that as an option. There's so many different ways you could do this. You could round out your corners with 3 in the corner, just like other things. But you just work a single up until you're about to draw through the 2. Rotate your hook. But I've really been enjoying this in my projects recently because you don't lose drape. The single crochet does add a little bit more rigidity up against something like doing a bunch of doubles or something. But it doesn't alter the drape like you get with the reverse single crochet. So the reverse single crochet will reduce the drape of an overall project because it helps it to maintain its shape. I'm trying to show you different ways that you can rotate this hook. But with the twisted single crochet, you know, the only rigidity you're getting from this is the fact you're adding a single crochet border to something. But you maintain more of that outer edge stretch compared to the original. And I really like that for things where I'm not concerned about maintaining a rigid border. I really love the look of that reverse single crochet, and you can tell we very much have something very similar. But see, here you can see your stitches through. Well, that's a bad spot because I have a little orange showing, but you can kind of see this looks like a normal single crochet in here, whereas here we have so much bulk, we can't quite see the stitches the same way. And you can even see here, like how squishy and soft this is compared to how dense this is. We have the double loops here. We have a single loop here. I mean, the difference is aesthetically, I don't think is that much, but the structure at the end of the day is very different. The effect that it's going to give at the end of the day feels different. Of course, as I'm trying to show you guys what the stitch looks like, I would start having issues just basic crocheting. Not a problem with the stitch, the yarn, or the hook. Just me having issues with my fingers this morning. But again, you know, you just get into a rotation, a pattern. You see, we're not getting that same amount of ruffle. I don't have to sit here and really mash this out. I did have to lay it out because solid granny square, but it stays within the shape of the granny square. I'm not having to pull the granny square to match that extra bulk in this twisted single crochet. Probably should have woven in the ends on the granny squares before we started this comparison here, though. But these are, you know, just super duper simple. The mechanics of this is insert the hook into your next stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, rotate your hook counterclockwise, yarn over, draw through 2 loops. Insert hook into your next stitch, yarn over, draw through a loop. With 2 loops on your hook, rotate your hook counterclockwise, yarn over, draw through 2. And you're trying to keep the plane of your hook parallel, a parallel plane to your work. You're not helicoptering over your work, which I'm sure that would work. You just get yourself tangled up in your working yarn. So insert, yarn over, draw up a hook, loop, rotate, yarn over, draw through 2. But you can see this isn't, you know, it doesn't have to add tension to your wrist. You can flick it with your wrist. You can rotate it with your fingers. I kind of just flip it when it's sitting in my lap And then for the corners, just for these samples, I'm doing a one single crochet, chain one, one twisted single crochet. But you could put 3 twisted single crochets in the corner. With crab stitch, it's a little bit harder to do that. If you really want a full rounded corner, it's a little bit harder to get 3 stitches in the same hole like that. But with the twisted single crochet, it's easier to fit that in there. I'm just not doing that for consistency the same way we have done the reverse single crochet square with the chain one. But I think this would be nice, especially if you've got something like, say, a cotton garment or a wool garment where the fibers are going to spring back into place. You will get some, drape pull and stuff as you wear it, but they block back out to their natural shape. You're not trying to create a firm outline or border to your project, but you want that decorative, almost I-cord looking edge in your crochet project. And if you're a knitter looking to use this on a knitted project, this would work great if you don't want to pick up and knit an I-cord border on something. Either of these stitches would be great depending on what your project is at the end of the day and the type of border you're looking to put on there. As we're coming to the end, we'll look at these more closely side by side. So we're going to single into our chain one, rotate, draw through 2, chain 1. And for this one, you can slip into the chain where we joined it. And you can see it's already a little bit more seamless than our reverse single crochet was. You don't really have to be quite as careful weaving in the ends. I still would weave in my finished end to where I joined there, and my starting end into the end of the work. But we don't have that giant knob that we're trying to conceal between the join and the finish with the twisted single crochet. And we've got just a nice crochet border. So let's look at these more closely side by side. So again, at a distance, they look very similar. So if this is the look you're going for, either stitch is going to be nice. Now, when we come to stretch, we're at about 50% of what the piece was doing before we added a border. Here we've got closer to about 75%. And you can see how our stitch stretches there. Whereas you can see with that double looping for the reverse single crochet, we just don't get that same amount of stretch. So, slightly tighter border for both of these, as we're, in this case, have a double crochet granny square with a single crochet border. You can see that there's just laying the border edge out and trying to get that straight. We have a little bit more height. So we've added about 2 stitches worth of bulk into the border with the crab stitch or reverse single crochet stitch compared to the twisted single crochet stitch. When it comes to the side profile here of what they look like, they once again look very, very similar, but you can see all of that extra bulk where we have, it's almost like a quad loop versus a triple loop here. And that's because that wrap is a double loop wrap, whereas this is a single loop wrap. And then on the back, once again, they just appear very similar. Now, when you do the squish test, you know, obviously this one is compressing far more because we have more yarn trapped in this stitch versus this stitch. So it's fascinating to me because I've never would have thought to compare these stitches. And I never would have thought to change from doing a reverse single crochet. But now, having done the twisted single crochet on a couple of projects and comparing, you know, just the finish for most of my projects, how it feels, how it looks, difficulty of doing the stitch, they're about the same difficulty. You know, once again, it takes getting your hands around it. With one, we're working in the reverse direction from where we normally would, which is awkward, and trying to get your yarn over and your hook and everything else in the right spot. It is a little awkward trying to get the reverse single crochet down, but once you have the stitch, you fall into your pattern and it's, you know, easy peasy lemon squeezy. With the twisted single crochet, that rotation of the hook is unusual, and until you're used to doing it, it can feel a little cumbersome, I guess is a good word. But once you have it, you have it. And it's an easy flicking motion as you're working. So it's not adding anything overly difficult to the process. So both of them, they have about the same ease of use. I think these are definitely beginner-friendly stitches. They both give you a very nice finished final project. I think it's a nice border. It'd be nice, you know, incorporated in the same color, or as we've done here with the contrasting border, it's a nice standalone contrasting border. So it's, you don't need to add, you know, a row of single crochet and then do a reverse single crochet or a twisted single crochet, because these work directly into the pre-existing stitches and are adding that rounded edge. They work perfectly as standalone single round contrast borders. So if you're running short on your border yarn and you want this decorative edge, either one of these stitches would be a good option, because you can just do it in the single row. You don't have to have a foundation row working, another foundation row working around your project. So I do think these look best worked into the tops of your stitches. So if you are, like, say, working a blanket from the bottom up, I would throw a border row around just so you've got all of your stitches directional. But technically you don't have to do that with this. I mean, technically you could work this directly into the side of a project. I just think any border is going to look better worked into the tops of stitches. If all your stitches are faced to the outer part of your project or outer part of where you're putting your border, I think you're always going to have a better final look. But when it comes to that last edge, as long as you're working into the top of the stitches, I think you're going to have something really nice, really pretty. Like I said, it's going to come down to how much you want that final stretch. Well, yes, I can force this, and as I steam it, because this is, you know, acrylic, I could probably get this to block to the same measurements as this fully stretched, but it's not going to look quite as nice as this is. Like this is how stitch is supposed to look, whereas this one is supposed to be, you know, that more dense appearance. But it's just a fascinating, you know, for something that looks so completely similar in your finished project, those slight differences between these two stitches could have dramatic impact on a final project. Whether it's how you block it, what measurements you're blocking it to, if you're going to lose some drape or maintain your drape. I would recommend playing with both stitches and, you know, just enjoying both stitches and seeing how you want to apply them. So I hope you have enjoyed the, you know, kind of basic tutorial on how to do the 2 stitches, talking about, you know, each stitch, how it's made, how it feels, and then the final comparison side by side of these 2. I know this ended up being a lot longer than I meant it to be. I hadn't originally intended to film the entire process of going around the squares. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful, fantastic day. Leave a comment down below how you would use these. Have you ever used these to finish your projects? Which one did you use? How did you use it? Why did you use it? I'm interested in your insight to this as well. So I love you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful, fantastic day. I look forward to seeing you real soon. Bye, guys.